ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to Wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. I hope you are receiving some wisdom out of these sessions from Bhagavad Gita, some practical application, some knowledge that you can apply into your day-to-day life. Most of the time, one of the main roadblocks in reading scriptures or studying scriptures is that people don't understand how do we implement this knowledge into our day-to-day life. And that is why it becomes boring. It seems that it is just theoretical knowledge. But as soon as we can start understanding how this theoretical knowledge or how the scriptural knowledge can be implemented in our day-to-day life, suddenly it becomes useful because it is not like some passive, static knowledge which we have to just read and forget about it. But we can read, we can understand, and we can start implementing it, and then we can start getting the realizations which the Bhagavad Gita wants us to get. And that is the whole purpose that Lord Shri Krishna is explaining this knowledge to Arjuna, and through his medium, he is explaining to all of us. So I hope when we are talking about what Lord Shri Krishna is mentioning to Arjuna and what practical knowledge that we are deriving from it, I hope it is also getting useful and becoming useful for all of you. So we have been on this journey for now almost 51 sessions. Um, and currently we are on chapter 14, the three modes of material nature, which is called Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. So we have seen in the last week, I think first 13 verses of this chapter we have completed, and we are going to start from verse number 14. So in the first 13 verses, we have seen that first Lord Shri Krishna explains the glories of this knowledge that he is going to explain. And then he explains to Arjuna that he is the seed-giving father for everyone, and the material nature is the mother. Then he explains the three modes of the material nature. What are the symptoms? What are the characteristics of that mode? What are the roadblocks which the modes are creating for everyone? For example, the goodness creates happiness. It gives also knowledge, but that also becomes a roadblock in itself. Because if you are happy, we are thinking that, oh, where is the need to go out of this material world? We are just satisfied here. And if you are very knowledgeable, that creates a pride that we start thinking that, oh, where is like why I should actually, I know everything. Why I have to hear about this knowledge from anyone else? So that becomes suddenly a roadblock, even though it is a higher mode. Sattva guna is a higher mode, but that is not an ultimate mode. We have to transcend the Sattva guna as well, because Sattva guna also binds us in this material world and keeps us here. Then the passion, the mode of passion is giving this attachment and impulsiveness and unlimited desires. And mode of ignorance gives indecisiveness, foolishness, madness, laziness. All of these characteristics come from ignorance, tamoguna. And interestingly, we can see Arjuna going through all these three modes in Bhagavad Gita. We saw that Arjuna became very impulsive in the first chapter. Actually, in the first chapter, he also shows some goodness in the beginning because when he looks at all these people in front, he says that these are all against dharma and they are driven by greed. So he actually clearly identifies that the people on the Duryodhana side, they are not good people. They are bound by greed. So this knowledge and the clarity of thought comes from goodness. But then suddenly he goes into passion and he becomes very impulsive. and he says that now I'm going to go to forest. So that comes from the attachment for his relatives. And then he shows indecisiveness. He says that, Krishna, I don't know what to do. This is right or that is right. I think that everything is right. So, or everything is wrong. I don't understand what to do. So that indecisiveness comes from Tamoguna. And then, of course, through the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, then he transcends the Tamoguna and Rajoguna, and then he comes to Sattva-guna, and then he also goes to Shuddha Sattva, or he goes beyond these three modes and comes to pure goodness. So these modes are competing in us, as we just saw that in Arjuna, these three modes are visible. So similarly, in all of us as well, these three modes are visible. And they are fighting with each other, these three modes, for the supremacy amongst us. So sometimes the mode of goodness wins and we are actually behaving very nicely. Sometimes passion is winning in us and we are very impulsive, we are full of desire, we are full of attachment. And sometimes tamoguna is winning and then we are lazy, we are not having any like the commitment is completely lacking. We are acting very foolishly, we are indecisive, madness. All of these are visible because at that time tamoguna is winning in us. And these three modes can actually be visible in one day, in 1 hour in us. So it is not that 1 year you are in satoguna, then other year you are in tamoguna or like that. No, in one day, in 1 hour, in our behavior, in our thoughts, in our actions, we can see that these three modes are always fighting with each other. And sometimes some guna is winning, sometimes some other guna is winning. But that also shows that these modes can be changed. Because if there are sometimes we're in goodness, sometimes in passion, sometimes in ignorance, that means these modes are fighting. And by we taking the right action, we making the right choice in each decision point, we can actually change our modes. And this is the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita, that we should be able to change our modes, we should transcend these modes, and finally come to this stage of Bhakti Yoga. So this is what we have discussed till now. That there is actually, and also Lord Shri Krishna mentioned that how these modes are manifested. So the goodness is manifested through knowledge, passion through attachment, uncontrolled desire, intense endeavors, and then tamoguna, or ignorance in inactivity and madness. So many things that we have seen till now about modes, and Lord Shri Krishna is continuing to talk about these three modes. So let us go to chapter 14, verse number 14. यदा सत्त्वे प्रवृद्धे तु प्रलयं याति देहभृत् तदोत्तं विदां लोकान् अमलान् प्रतिपद्यते. Who wants to read the translation? Yes, Surananda Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages.
Let us read the next one as well. It is related, and then we will talk about them. रजसी प्रलयं गत्वा कर्मसङ्गीषु जायते तथा प्रलीनस्तमसि मूढयोनिषु जायते.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read it?
Yes, please go.
When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom.
Yeah. Thank you and welcome back, Uma Mataji, Vidushi Mataji.
Hare
We were
Krishna.
definitely missing you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhuji. I'm back.
Okay, so here what we are talking about is the effect of modes. And especially in these two verses, 14 and 15, Lord Shri Krishna is explaining what is the effect, the long-term effect of these three modes. So let us see. So what is the long-term effect? So mode of goodness, the effect is, we saw in the 14th chapter, 14th verse, he attains the pure higher planets of great sages. So at the time of death, what will happen is the person who has lived the life in mode of goodness, they will go to higher planetary systems above earthly planets. But what happens if you die in mode of passion? You come back to this earthly planet. And if mode of ignorance, then you go to animal kingdom at death or lower planetary systems. So basically, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance is actually showing our consciousness. So if our consciousness has gone higher, we get promoted to higher planet. If our consciousness remains like in middle, then we remain on this earthly planet, which is the mode of passion. And if our consciousness we have degraded to mode of ignorance, then we do not have the right position on this earthly planet as human beings. So even if we come back to earthly planet, we go into animal life, so lower species of life, or we actually get demoted to the lower planetary systems. So that is how the consciousness is determining where at the end of life we are going to go. And we have already seen in the 8th chapter, Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smaranamuktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastatra samshaya. But if our consciousness is in Krishna, then at the time of death, we will go to Krishna's planet. So you will not remain on the higher planetary system in just this material world, but we can actually transcend like all these three modes and the material nature. We can transcend and go to the higher, like the highest planet, which is in spiritual world. So that is how our modes can make effect. So that is why we have to actually start living our life at least in mode of goodness. That is the minimum requirement. If we read Bhagavad Gita and if we still keep continuing our activities in mode of passion and ignorance, then the result is going to be we either come back on earthly planet or just go to animal planet, sorry, animal life or the lower planetary system. At least we should make some progress in our consciousness when we have got this human life on earthly planet. The best is we make the best use of this and bring our consciousness to transcendental mode, which is beyond these three modes, by doing the bhakti yoga, so that at the time of death we'll remember Krishna and we'll go back to Krishna's planet. So that is our goal. But this is the long-term effect. Now, in the next few verses, two verses, 16 and 17, Krishna also explains what is the medium-term effect and short-term effect. What happens immediately, what happens like after some time, and what is the long-term effect is we have already seen in these two verses. Yeah. But before we go ahead, Rajiv Prabhu, you have any question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Apologies for being late. If it wasn't for the reminder message, I would have missed it. So that was really good. I have a couple of questions. One on verse number 14, it says, whatever state that person is at the time of death. So, the three modes that you described. So, regardless if the person, all his life did a lot of good deeds, but at the time of death was in the mode of rajas, then, is that what determines?
Yeah, good question, Prabhuji. And I think we have already seen that in the 8th chapter. 8th chapter, when I was actually quoting this verse, the before and after these verses, Krishna explains that whatever that we have done throughout our life, that is what we are actually going to be remembering at the end of our life. So it will not happen that you have led your life in mode of goodness, and suddenly you are dying in passion or ignorance mode, because that is not your nature. Whatever is your nature, that is what you are going to remember. And this is also the reason why we can't cheat. That someone will say that, okay, the most important part is I should die in a particular good mode. Like if I will live my life, whole of my life is spent in passion and ignorance, and I'll cheat at the end because that is what is the important point. So somehow or the other, I will be in goodness at the time of death and I will go to higher planet. No, that is not possible for anyone, because at the time of death, you are not in your sane mind. It is like emergency. All of these situations are happening, and by default, you will go to your default nature. So you are not able to cheat, unfortunately, at the time of death. So that is where whatever you have done throughout your life is what you are going to see at the time of death.
Actually, the second part of the question was, which is split into A and B. Part A of that is these higher planets and earthly and animal kingdom, are these figuratively or these are literally places?
Yeah. So they are literally places. So our scriptures mention that in our material world there are 14 levels of the material planetary systems, and earthly kingdom comes in middle, and then there are seven below and six up, and the highest one is Brahmaloka. So above earthly planet is Bhuvarloka, then Swargaloka, then Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and then Brahmaloka. And then below are this Atala, Sutala, Vithala, Mahatala, Patal. All these lokas are below. So, but animal kingdom, when it mentions, is not a separate planet where animal live. Animal kingdom means the consciousness is degraded to animal level, so we get animal life on this planet itself or some other planet as well. But you will go into animal life. So there are
Right.
8.4 million species that we have, and the top 400,000 are human and above species. So currently, we have traversed through this 8 million species, and we have somewhere in between this 400,000 which are on top, the top cream. So including Devatas are also in this 400,000. So we are somewhere in between in that top 400,000.
Okay.
But depending on what we have done, we can degrade ourselves, and we can get demoted.
I didn't know, but that's really good to know.
And this is, yeah, sorry. Then this is logical proof, just like it's the appraisal in organizations. So at the appraisal time, in the last 1 year, if you haven't done good work, then you will not keep getting that position. You may get demoted to lower positions or whatever. Or you can sometimes you can even lose your job. So similarly, if you have done so badly as a human being that we may actually lose our job as a human being and we get some animal job
Right.
at the moment.
So that's a very good segue to the second part of the question then, and this is, and I don't know to what extent this is true, but I've heard this, that once Buddha was asked, whether he'd like to go to heaven or hell, and Buddha was like, what will I do in heaven? Everything will be good there. So, I'll have a lot of work to do in hell. So I'd rather choose hell. So from that point of view, that perspective, right? What's the point in going to a place where everything is so good, right? There's even like, right now, you just satsang kar rahe hain, that we are having this now, right? You've got a purpose right now, at least for us. You're, sharing this knowledge with us. So if everything's good, what more is there to do?
Yeah. Now, good point, Prabhuji. So I'm not aware of what Buddha said and whatever at that point in time, whether that is true or not. But the logic is that the Supreme Lord or his pure devotees, they are compassionate towards the fallen living entities. And that is why they are actually ready to go anywhere to help the living entities to actually come out of these problems. Otherwise, what is the reason why Lord Shri Krishna, he comes in different incarnations to this material world? Now, this material world, as compared to the spiritual world, is like hell only. So we think that this earthly planet is very good, and the lower planetaries are hellish planets. But from the spiritual world's perspective, all of this material world is like hellish planets. So he comes here so that we get attracted and we decide to go back. So similarly, if Lord Buddha says that I want to go to the hellish planet so that I can help all these living entities there, then that's good. But like what we are talking about here is not even heaven or hell, because most of the time our understanding is limited to heaven. But if you see in the planetary systems that I just talked about, just above earthly planet is Bhuvarloka, and then one next to it is Swargaloka, that is the heaven. But even above heaven, there is Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka. And these lokas are also into material world. And beyond that is Virija river, then Mahesh Dham, and then Vaikuntha Loka, and then Goloka Vrindavan, which is in the spiritual realm. So our spiritual understanding many times is quite limited to this. Even the material planetary systems as well, we do not know, and we only aim for Swargaloka. So even if you want to aim something in the material world, then we should at least aim for Brahmaloka, which is Lord Brahma, where Lord Brahma is staying, because then that is the highest. But we should actually try to actually think beyond this material world, which is to go to spiritual world, where Lord Shri Krishna, in his various forms, is staying there. So that should be our aim. I think we should move on, Rajiv Prabhu. I think hold on for
No,
this.
definitely. I don't want to take too much time because it's not physically, it's more the spiritual level in terms of these locals that are there. Because, otherwise, if you look at the solar system or the universe, no one's found life anywhere yet apart from Earth.
Yeah. So all of these universe, like this planets that we can see with our material vision, they are all called earthly planets. Earth
Ah,
is not this just one Earth. Earthly planetary
right.
system is completely at that level.
Okay.
And these other planets like Brahmaloka and that we are talking about, they are completely at a different level, which we are not able to see yet. But
Oh,
scriptures are already mentioning because of their higher vision.
Atsaji. Excellent. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mahendra Prabhu, did you have a quick question or comment?
Yes, Prabhuji, but I can wait until the end, or it might be relevant, or you might have already covered. So sorry if you have already covered. Should I ask
Okay,
now?
maybe let us. Okay, let's ask, and if the answer is coming later, then I'll just
Okay.
park it there.
Okay, just quick one, Prabhuji. So you mentioned in this explanation that someone lived throughout the mode of ignorance or passion, right? So at the time of the death, whatever that person has done, others basically, do all those chanting and everything at the time of death of that person, or we do all those vidhis after the death as well. How that's gonna help to the person who has already died, who was in the mode of ignorance or passion?
Okay, it's not going to be get covered here, so I'll just
Okay,
quickly answer that.
okay,
Many times, many rituals which are done after the person has left, many of them are like, for example, at that time, it is mentioned that people should read Garud Puran or Bhagavad Gita. Mainly, the devotees say that read Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam at that time. So, or even the materialistic people who are reading Garud Purana, they are not reading it for the person who has left. They are reading it for the people who are still here. They are saying that this person is gone and he did not probably do all of these things. So at least you read so that when you die, you will not take birth again and you will go back to Godhead. So at least you realize now, because there is some kind of like, because there is people are going through this difficult period of because of someone has close to them has passed away. They are in a state of mind where they can accept some spiritual knowledge. Because in the seventh chapter, Krishna said that there are four kinds of people who can take to this knowledge. Artha, Artharthi, Jigyasu, and Jnani. So Artha means he's distressed. So when people are distressed, there is a possibility that they can take up this knowledge. So that is why some of that is done after the person has died. And then some of the rituals which are done, they are also helpful for creating um, making some offerings, making some prayers, and to helping that lost soul or the soul who have passed away from here to take a new body. But for pure devotees, like who are very advanced, they have transcended the three mode. Then for them, there is no need for these rituals to create a new body because they don't want to take the material body. They want to actually go into their spiritual form. So for them, it is not done, all of those things. But while the person is still alive, at that end of life, if the devotees are chanting the Bhagavad Gita, chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, all of that, that's the mercy of devotees. And with that mercy of devotees, it is possible that the person's consciousness can be changed and they can make some progress. So even though they may have actually lived the life in ignorance, passion, or goodness, at the time of death, if some people are actually, the devotees are chanting around him, so that is the kripa of devotees. And by that kripa, it is possible. I'm not saying that it is going to happen. In all that chaos as well, uh, in all this chanting that is happening, his mind may be in the chaos and he may not be able to accept the chanting or whatever that is going on. Srila Prabhupada used to tell a story. Um, I don't remember the complete one now, but even at the time of death, someone is mentioning to this person that you chant, chant, Hare Krishna, chant. And this person at the last breath is there. He gathers this energy and says, can't, can't. So instead of chanting the holy name, he uses that last bit of energy and says that I won't chant, I can't chant. He should have just said Hare Krishna instead of saying can't, but he does that. So still the mode of ignorance may actually overpower them even when the devotees are chanting around them. But it is possible that that will have a positive effect. Um, and especially the devotees are chanting when other devotees are passing away. So that is to remind them that you have done it for the whole of your life. So we are helping you to remember.
Makes sense,
Okay,
Prabhuji. Thank you.
let us move on. So we have read only 2 verses till now. Let us we are trying to finish this chapter today. Let's go to 16th verse. कर्मणः सुकृतस्याहु सात्विकं निर्मलं फलं रजस्तु फलं दुःखम् अज्ञानं तमसा फलम्. Yes, Uma Mataji, please go ahead.
The result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness, but action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So we have seen this long-term effect, and this verse is explaining the medium-term effect. So what happens is mode of goodness gives pure results. Mode of passion gives misery, and mode of ignorance creates foolishness. Now let us read the next verse as well, and we'll see how this short-term, medium-term, and long-term effect are related. 17th verse. Satvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha eva cha pramadamoho tamaso bhavato jnanameva cha. Yes, Mahendra.
Thanks, Prabhuji. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, illusion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is explaining the short-term effect. So from mode of goodness comes real knowledge, passion. From the passion, we develop greed. And from the mode of ignorance, we develop madness and illusion. So when we are in goodness, the real knowledge develops in us. And because of that, we get purity and our results are also pure. And because our actions are pure, then because of that, we go to higher planets. But whereas mode of passion is developing greed within us. And greed, when it is there, it is never going to give us happiness. It is always going to give dukkha, misery. And then we will just remain here on the earthly planet. And mode of ignorance actually develops madness and illusion. And because of that, we don't understand what is right, what is wrong. And that is why we start acting foolishly. And that results in the birth in animal life or even lower planetary systems. The next verse explains the direction on how people move. So 18th verse. ऊर्ध्वं गच्छन्ति सत्त्वस्था मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसा जघन्यगुणवृत्तिस्था अधो गच्छन्ति तामसः. Who wants to read? Yes, Shanti Mataji. And the next one, Mahendra Prabhu can do.
Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So here it is showing the direction. Gachanti, gachanti. So if we have lifted our consciousness, then we go in the upper direction, upward direction. If we have those in the mode of passion lives on the earthly planet, so we have just maintained where we are, then we will just remain where we are. And we have done the abominable actions, and because of that, we have developed ignorance, then we go down to hellish worlds. So the lower planetary systems or lower species of life. So this is what like this 14 to 18, these verses were explaining what is the effect of these three modes. Let us go further. नान्यं गुणेभ्यः कर्तारं यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति.
Ishtam Prabhuji. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So from this, sorry, I forgot to mention this practical tip from the previous verses that we have seen. So we have seen that even the mode of goodness is only lifting us to higher planetary systems, which is still in the material modes. So, sorry, they're still in the material world. So that means even the mode of goodness is keeping us in the material world. So it is not that mode of goodness is taking us out of this material world into the spiritual world. It is making us progress in the material world, which is good. It is not bad, but still it is keeping us in the material world. So we have to transcend the mode of goodness also. So we should not be, if we have come from ignorance and passion to mode of goodness, we should not be just satisfied that now I am in goodness, I am done, I'm happy, I'll just remain here. We should take the effort to move further. And how to do that? In this chapter, Krishna is going to mention. So this particular verse now that we have read, it will be better if we actually understand the next verse as well. Then it is easier to understand 19th and 20th verse together. गुणान् एतानतीत्यत्रिन् देहि देहसमुद्भवान् जन्म मृत्युजरा दुःखैर्विमुक्तोऽम् अमृतमश्नुते. Yes, Vidushi Mataji.
When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth.
There is further, Mataji, like you have just read half of it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Free from birth, death, old age, and their distress, and can enjoy nectar even in this life.
So in this two verses, Krishna is explaining how we can transcend the three modes. So knowledge is leading to liberation. So what we have to do is understand the working of the three modes, but that is not enough. We have to also understand the position of the Supreme Lord. And then what happens is one becomes liberated. And one can relish nectar even in this life. It's quite interesting. So Krishna is explaining this working of three modes, Sattva Guna, Rajogun, Tamogun. And someone will say that, oh, yes, I have understood now. These actions are Sattvagun, these actions are in Rajogun, these actions are Tamogun. And I'll try to avoid when the choices come. I will always choose mode of material, mode of goodness, Sattvagun. That is what I'm going to choose. Is that enough? Krishna says no. if you want to actually liberate from these three modes, then there is one more thing that we need to do, which is to understand the position of the Supreme Lord. Because what we have done, if we have understood the three modes, is we can still only go till mode of goodness. We will not be able to transcend, we will not be able to go beyond the three modes. But if we understand the position of the Supreme Lord, then it is possible that we understand that the Supreme Lord is there, we are his part and parcels, and we are servant, he is the master, and we should use our senses, use our abilities to serve him, and that service is beyond the three modes. So unless we understand that there is something beyond the three modes, we will not be able to transcend it. Now, soul is also beyond the three modes. But here it is not said that we have to understand the soul, because it is included somehow or the other in the first point when we understand the working of the modes, which means that we understand we are not this body, but we are spirit soul. And the body is made of three modes, and the spirit soul is different from it. So in the first point, understand the working of the three modes includes that we are not this body, the body is made of three modes. We are spirit soul is different from matter, it is spiritual. That understanding will not be enough to go back to Godhead. What we need to do is we need to understand that, oh, I am spirit soul, Krishna is also spiritual, he is the Supreme Lord, and I am the servant, and I should use this material body that I have in his service. And that activity or those activities that we are doing, they are called Bhakti Yoga. And Krishna explains that specifically in 26th and 27th verse. So when we start doing like that, then one becomes liberated from these three modes. We get freedom from distress. And even in this life, we will be beyond three modes and we will enjoy nectar even in this life. So even when we have this body which is made of three modes, because we are using everything in Krishna's service, we will be at the platform as if we are in the spiritual world. It will not matter that whether we are here in the material world or spiritual world, because we are having the same experience as the spiritual platform. And that is why pure devotees, they don't mind. They don't mind whether they are in spiritual world, material world, or even hellish world, because for them, the entire experience is on the spiritual platform. So after hearing then Arjuna is quite interested in understanding how is this person who is beyond these three modes, what are his symptoms, what are his behavior? And some similar question he asked in the second chapter as well when Lord Shri Krishna talked about Sthita Prajna. So he asked, what are the symptoms? What is his behavior? How does he walk? How does he sit? All of those. Now something similar he's going to ask in the next verse. अर्जुन उवाच कैर्लिङ्गस्त्रिन् गुणान् एतान् अतितो भवति प्रभो किमाचारः कथं चैतांस् त्रिन् गुणान् अतिवर्तते. Yes, go ahead, Rajiv Prabhu, and then Surananda Prabhu, you can do the next one.
Hare Krishna. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the modes of nature?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So there are three questions Arjuna is asking. What are the symptoms of one who has transcended the mode? What is his behavior? And how does he transcend the mode? So the first question is what are the symptoms? Second one is behavior, and third one is most important. This is all okay that he has now transcended, but how does one transcend the mode? And Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan actually he reframes these questions. So when Arjuna is asking what are the symptoms of one who has transcended, so he's saying that what he wants to know is how do we understand that someone has already transcended? And what is his behavior? So he mentions that this question explains, or Arjuna is wanting to know, is the behavior of such person regulated, or it is according to his own desire? And the third question is, how does it transcend the modes? So Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan mentions that this third question is actually, by what practice does one achieve transcendence? How can someone, what practice someone has to do to go beyond these three modes? So let us see what Lord Shri Krishna mentions. Now there are these four verses coming together. So out of these four verses, the first verse, 22nd verse, is going to answer the first question here. 23 to 25 is going to answer the second question, which is the behavior part. And 26 and 27, mainly 26, covers this last question, how do we transcend the modes? So let us go through these last few verses. So 22 to 25, Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, Prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohamev cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kankshati udasina vadasino gunairyo na vichalyate guna vartanta ittevam yovatishthati nengate samadukha sukham swastha samaloshtasma kanchanah tulya priya priyo dhiras tulya nindatma samstutihi मानापमानयोस्तुल्यस् तुल्यो मित्रारिपक्षयोः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी गुणातीत स उच्यते.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining natural and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities, such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature.
Quite a big translation. And Anurag Prabhu, do you have a question or comment, or you wanted to read?
No, I'll read the next one.
Okay, next one you can read. Fine. So big translation because it is a translation of four verses. So let us see what Lord Shri Krishna is mentioning here and how he is answering the questions that Arjuna has asked. So the first question that he asked was, what are the symptoms, or how do we understand that someone has already transcended? So what he says is that there is no desire for or repulsion from manifestations of modes, illumination, attachment, and delusion. So Krishna says, with prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava. So prakasha means illumination. So that is referring to sattva guna. Then pravrittim is referring to attachment. So that is referring to rajoguna. And moha is showing delusion. So delusion is tamoguna. So whether it is illumination, attachment, or delusion, this person who has transcended this three mode, he has no uh, he has no desire or repulsion. So na dveshti sampravruttani na nivruttani kankshati. So there is no hate. He's free from like envy or hankering. He has no desire for it, or he is not hating it. So both are on the material platform. So he is beyond these three: goodness, passion, and ignorance. He is not envying it. He is not hankering for it. Then what are the further symptoms? Modes are still acting on the body, but the soul of this person is aloof. He neither desires to enjoy the body nor desires to go out of this body. And that is what we were actually also discussing, that this person who is on this transcendental level, he's not even thinking that I want to actually go out of this body. I want to go to the spiritual world. Because even in this body, in this material world, he's on the spiritual platform. So he's at that level, Sat, Sat Chid and Ananda. So he's not hating that, oh, I am in this body and I have to actually somehow or other, as soon as possible, give up this body and go back to Godhead. Because from his perspective, whatever he has, whatever this person has, he or she has, they have to actually utilize in Krishna's service. So currently, you have this body, so you use it in Krishna's service. So that is what this person is doing. So whatever goodness, passion, ignorance, whatever some desires that may be there, he will dovetail them into Krishna's service. And that is how he is progressing. So this is for the symptoms perspective. Now behavior, there are these 23, 24, 25, quite a lot of things which are mentioned for the behavior of this person. Let us see. Yeah. Oops. So he is equally disposed. So basically, it is mentioned, Baldev Vidyabhushan's, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan's rephrasing of this question was, is his behavior regulated or is he just going as per whatever desire comes in him? So Lord Shri Krishna has said that his behavior is very, very regulated. He is equally disposed and sees everything equally, and he is very steady in all circumstances. So what kind of circumstances are mentioned here? So he's steady in all circumstances means praise or blame. Someone is praising him or blaming him. Someone is honoring him or dishonoring him. Happiness or distress. Desirable situation or undesirable situation. He's steady in all circumstances. It doesn't matter to him. Someone is praising him or blaming him, he will be still fine. It is not that someone is praising him, he says that, oh, you're my best friend. And someone who's blaming him or criticizing him, he's saying that you're my biggest enemy. Or someone is honoring him, he say, Are, you have understood my glories. And someone is dishonoring him, "Yeah, you are foolish, you don't understand how pure I am." So he's not at that level. He's not at the bodily level. He's beyond these three modes. He deals equally everyone and everything. Now, everything is easy. It is still difficult. Everything means the verse is talking about how he accepts the lump of earth, stone, and gold equally. Imagine someone is giving you a stone or gold and saying they are equal. So this person, because from his perspective, both are matter. What is there for me? Unless I can utilize these things in Krishna's service, it is of no use to me. If he finds a stone, he will start thinking, how can I actually create a deity of Krishna from this stone? And suddenly that stone is useful for him more than gold. And sometimes if he finds gold, he will say, okay, from this gold, I can make some paraphernalia for Krishna, or I can build a temple for Krishna using this gold. And suddenly everything is useful for him. So he's seeing that equally. So mainly his equal vision for everything is, I will use anything and everything in Krishna's service. Whatever is favorable for Krishna's service, I'll accept, and whatever is not favorable, I'll reject it. So that is his equal vision for everything. Now, equal vision for everything is easier as compared to everyone. So friend or enemy. So it is said, he's treating friend and enemy as well equally. Basically, what it means, it is not that friend and enemy, he's behaving in the same way. But okay, so he will reciprocate with them nicely. Like if a friend is there, he will reciprocate with a friend as well. But for an enemy, he will not become an enemy of the enemy. So he takes, like, anyone who's helping him in Krishna consciousness is his friend, and anyone who thinks that he is the enemy, he doesn't become an enemy of that person. So that is how his equal vision goes. It is not that he will treat the enemy and if friend equally in literal sense, but he doesn't, he is not envious or hateful of his enemy, but he is not even overly attached to his friend so that he will forego his service to Krishna. Anyone who helps in that service, that is, he will treat him as a friend. And then he is equally disposed and sees everything at the equal level. So he knows that he has nothing to do with the material existence, and the social, political up and downs doesn't matter to him. So this is how the behavior of this person is. Now this behavior is little different from the symptoms, that the symptoms are internal, but these behaviors you can see, like other people can also note these behaviors. So the previous, the symptoms that we talked about, that there is no envy or hatred toward these three modes. And he, in this three modes as well, he is actually at the transcendental platform. Even in this body, he is at the transcendental platform. That is his internal disposition. You can't, most of the time, you won't be able to see it. But whereas this behavior is visible to others. Okay. So I can see there are hands up, but we will just complete these two more verses and then we will take if there are any questions. But let us move on to verse number 26, which is giving the most important answer to uh, to us from this chapter. This is the most important verse in this chapter. मां च यो व्यभिचारेण भक्तियोगेन सेवते सगुणान् समतीतैत्यान् ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते. Yes, Anurag Prabhuji, please go.
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman.
Yeah, great. Let's read the next one as well. Brahmono hi pratisthaham amrutasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya ikantikasya cha. Raju Prabhu, can read that.
And I am the
Sorry,
basis.
Anurag. Okay,
Oh.
you want to read? Continue. That's fine. Okay, he's giving you a chance, Raju Prabhu. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I had a question, but anyway.
Yeah, you can read it, and then we will
Take
see.
it. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness.
Thank you. So these two verses are the pinnacle of this chapter, and especially the verse number 26. Till now, we have seen that Lord Shri Krishna is explaining how these three modes are very difficult to overcome, how they actually are fighting with each other. Sometimes this mode is winning, sometimes that mode is winning, how they are overcome, or how there are obstacles even in goodness, passion, and ignorance. And all of that has been mentioned. And it you will start feeling that, oh, it is almost impossible for anyone to go beyond these three modes because they are so powerful. And suddenly then Krishna mentions that yes, these three modes are very powerful and it is really difficult to overcome them, but by avyabhicharini bhakti, mamchayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the mode of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So by exclusive devotion to Krishna and avyabhicharini bhakti. So it is just focusing on Krishna only. It is ananya bhakti, unfailing in all circumstances. That we should never think that, oh, this bhakti of Krishna is not going to give me this result, so I should actually go to some other devata, or temporarily I just do this other vrata or whatever. No, Krishna is saying that if you are doing avyabhicharini bhakti, you will transcend these three modes. Ananya bhakti. No one else apart from Krishna, because he is the supreme personality of Godhead. And anything that can be given by other devatas, Krishna can also give because he is the supreme person. And in this picture, you can see how by taking bhakti, we can transcend the three modes. We are like, we can see this picture where we are like getting controlled by these three deities of Sattvagun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. But above the Prakriti is Krishna. So if we take shelter of Krishna, then these three modes will not be able to control us, because we, just like these three modes are controlled by Krishna, we are going under the shelter of Krishna. And that is where then the three modes, we can go beyond the three modes. So this is what is the secret that it is mentioned in the 26th verse, that by exclusive devotion to Krishna, we can come to the level of Brahman. And then someone will say, Brahman? I was thinking that if I do bhakti, and that to Ananya bhakti, avyabicharini bhakti, I will get love for Godhead. Suddenly you are talking about I will get Brahman, I will come to the level of Brahman. Yes, actually you will get love for Godhead if you do Ananya bhakti. But this area or this particular chapter is talking about how to go beyond the three modes. And that is why Krishna is saying that if you do bhakti, you will go beyond the three modes. It is like saying uh, you are going to get $1 million, but person is asking, that is fine, I'll get $1 million, but will I get $1,000? So Krishna is saying, yes, yes, you are going to get $1,000, but it is not the only $1,000 you are going to get. You are going to get $1 million. But because the focus was only on that $1,000, Krishna is saying, "Arey Baba, theek hai. $1 million includes $1,000 as well. So I will say to you that $1,000 bhi milega. You will get the $1,000." So that is why Krishna says that you will come to the level of Brahman. And then to remove that doubt completely about Brahman and whatever, he says in the last verse that I am the basis of Brahman. So Brahman is also like the foundation is me. Like the Brahman is also just an effulgence that is coming out of me. So it is not that Brahman is the highest. It is just an effulgence coming out of me, and I am the basis of that Brahman. So I am still the supreme uh, beyond Brahman as well. So that is how this verse is explaining to us the three modes of material nature and how to actually transcend it. This particular, let us read this last verse, last part, like the last paragraph, which is from the middle of that last paragraph. We want to start reading. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. Someone wants to read from there? Devotional service to the Lord is very simple.
I can read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of Lord, should eat the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord has his transcendental pastimes, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love and his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibrations Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and observe the fasting days commemorating the appearances and disappearances of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. One who can thus situate himself in the Brahma Yogi or the different varieties of Brahman conception is equal to the Supreme Personality of the Godhead in quality.
Thank you. So we can see that mamchayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So how to do this bhakti yoga, which is very simple. And what is that? We are saying that by this process of bhakti, we can transcend the three modes, and we can change our modes just by eating something, just by doing very simple things, eating prasadam, reading Bhagavad Gita, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, waking up early, doing Mangalarti, going to the Holy Dham, associating with devotees, all of these things. And these are simple things which are equivalent of that not and the equivalent at the consciousness level, but from the activity level, we are anyway doing. We are anyway eating. We are anyway reading or watching something. We are anyway speaking something. We are sleeping and waking up, and after waking up, we are doing some activities. We are associating with some people. But here Krishna is saying, if you make choices while doing those activities which are related to me, then that is bhakti yoga. So here there are more things which are mentioned, like smelling, like this. We are using our sense of smell. We can just take a flower and start smelling that flower. But then that we are using it for our own enjoyment. But if you see a beautiful flower, if we start thinking that, oh, I want to offer this flower to Krishna, and then after offering to Krishna, if we smell it, then suddenly that becomes prasadam, that becomes bhakti yoga. If we cook for ourselves and eat ourselves, that that is mode of passion, and depending on what we are eating, it can become mode of ignorance as well. But suddenly, if we actually cook something in mode of goodness and offer it to Krishna, then it actually transcends the mode of goodness. And when we eat that prasadam, it becomes bhakti yoga. So we have to eat, we have to smell, we have to read, we have to see all of these things. If we use in Krishna's service, then that becomes bhakti yoga. And something simple options which are mentioned. And the best of that is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If we do all of this, then, and especially chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it will help us to connect to Krishna using our senses, using the material body that we have. And that way, we will be able to transcend the three modes of material nature. So that is where we will finish this chapter, and we will see any comments, questions, reflections, or any other summary points that you want to mention. Hare Krishna. Yes, Raju Prabhu, you have been waiting patiently. I take your question now.
My hand is tired now. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The question I have is from verse number 20. Which one would this be? 25, I think.
Okay.
It says, and I'll read that part. And who has renounced all material activities, such a person is said to have transcended the. So how do you renounce? Because how can you renounce rather material activities? Because even breathing is a material activity, right? Eating food, everything is material activity.
Yeah.
So if we renounce this, then
I just explained the answer, Prabhuji. But because I think you're still thinking about your question in your mind, you did not catch it.
No, the explanation was more that everything is to be devoted. So that was 26.
Yeah.
So in here it says.
So any activity that you are doing, for example, eating is a material activity only if you are doing it for your own material enjoyment. But as soon as you actually cook in a consciousness that I'm cooking it for Krishna and offer it to Krishna, and then you eat that food, eating is still there. And externally, someone will say that, oh, this person is eating and this devotee is also eating. But the consciousness is completely different and the result is completely different. The first person is eating in either mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, but the devotee is eating in transcendental mode because he has offered to Krishna, cooked for Krishna, offered to Krishna, and then eating the remnants. So it becomes prasad or krupa of Krishna, mercy of Krishna. So that is how each activity that the devotee is doing, externally it may look like material activity, but depending on his consciousness, it will get spiritualized. So if he's doing it for Krishna, then it becomes bhakti yoga. If he's smelling the flower offered to Krishna, then that is bhakti yoga. If he's seeing the deity of Krishna or reading Bhagavad Gita instead of some other magazines, then that is bhakti yoga. So that is how he's not doing material activities, he's doing spiritual activities. Is that making sense?
Not quite, because it says here, by following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material. So becoming detached does not mean you've renounced it. You're still doing it. You're just detached from it.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's a conflict because it says one who has renounced all material. So how do you renounce it if you still have to do it? But then you do it mentally, you're just training yourself that I'm not doing it for myself, but I'm doing it for someone else.
Yeah. So this material detachment and spiritual attachment goes together. So it is like the example that we talked about some time ago, that when the child is eating dirt, so if mother keeps saying that, oh, don't eat it, don't eat it, don't eat it, it doesn't work. But if the mother gives him gulab jamun and says that you eat this gulab jamun, eat this gulab jamun, then automatically the child develops higher taste. And he thinks that, oh, this gulab jamun is much better than the dirt that I'm eating. So once you actually get a taste for gulab jamun or rasagulla, then there is no need for someone to tell you that forget about eating dirt, because the taste has been developed for higher things. So similarly, this material detachment and spiritual attachment goes hand in hand. Someone who actually has got a taste for spiritual activities, automatically the taste for material activities goes away. And then that, like the person is attached to Krishna. And when someone is attached to Krishna, he's detached from material things automatically. But if forcibly someone is asking you to do some material detachment, it becomes very difficult, just like giving up eating dirt is very difficult at that childhood. But suddenly, if you get a higher taste of attachment to Krishna, then that makes it very easy for us to give up um, the material attachment.
Analogy was great. It makes sense. And now I'm thinking of gulab jamuns.
Jai Hare Krishna. Aparna Mataji, Hare Krishna. If you have any reflections, questions, comments.
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. A very, very wonderful session, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Very well explained. I have a question. It might be a silly question, but you can choose to say, okay, maybe later we can discuss. So while disciplining our children, Prabhuji, can you give a really quick example of when we discipline them in mode of ignorance or mode of passion or mode of goodness or even mode of Shuddha Sattva? What is the, what, how can we discern between these four? Because sometimes I find myself that, oh my God, I'm not being a good mom. I'm yelling at my son. But then I know that it is part of my job. But then is there anything, Prabhuji, we can do to understand that, oh, this is the way I should discipline, which is in pure goodness, or
That is a
maybe
whole different topic, Aparna Mataji. I think it will take a while. And Krishna hasn't specifically mentioned how to discipline children in goodness, passion, ignorance, and in transcendental mode. But he has given principles by which we can apply, and then we can think about how we can do it. So when we go to 17th chapter, at that time, and including 18th chapter as well, where Krishna says that how we can do actions in these three modes, probably at that time it may become little easier to understand. Can we park
sure,
that
Prabhuji.
till then?
Sure, 100%. Thank you, Prabhuji. And one real quick question was when we say going beyond the three modes of material nature, what does exactly it mean, Prabhuji, going beyond being in the material body? When we do the Shuddha Sattva, the transcendental mode, we serve Krishna all the time. But how does it mean? What does it mean when we say that we go beyond the three modes, that we stop getting in the grip of these modes at all, or does it mean anything else, Prabhuji?
No, going beyond three modes means we are making a choice which is in transcendental mode. So any activity that we want to do, we have two choices, whether we are choosing Krishna or choosing Maya. And when we are making a choice to go with Maya, then within that as well, there are three choices, whether we are doing goodness, passion, or ignorance. So basically, there are four choices at a very high level. There are these in unlimited choices, but they are combination of goodness, passion, ignorance. But basically, there are at a high level two choices, or if we make it a little bit bigger, then there are four choices. So either we are doing ignorance, passion, goodness, or the Shuddha Sattva, which is the transcendental mode. So making a choice in any action that we are doing, that we choose the action which is in more pure goodness, then that is how we are going beyond the three modes. Basically, trying to do bhakti yoga, connect all actions to the Supreme Lord Krishna, then you are going beyond the three modes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That explains it very well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mahendra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thanks for the lecture today. And so my takeaway from this chapter is, so my understanding was like mode of goodness is the best mode, right? So it's still path and still like it is path and part of the material world.
Yeah.
So we should aim towards like, understanding the position of Supreme Lord, and how we do that is by engaging into full devotional service. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, that's good. Very good. That's the essence of the chapter. Any other reflections, comments, summary points for chapter 14 from anyone else? Yes, Surananda Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Doing bhakti yoga is very easy, Prabhuji. Just change the way we are doing things, and do everything for Krishna. You're doing pretty much the same things like eating, but eat prasadam, reading. So you intend to read, but read scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, and all other activities, just do it for Krishna. So easily we can win over three modes.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Okay. If not, then we will finish our session here. And from the next session, we will look at chapter 15. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srimad ki jai. Hare Krishna.